Hello. What a week for Arsenal. 8 goals, 3 wins, a place in a cup final, and a 9 point lead at the top of the Premier League. Does it get any better than this right now for the Gunners? Hello, everyone. Mark Donaldson alongside Janusz Mihalik. I suppose the best word for their 3-0 win over Sunderland today, Janusz, was routine. Any other words you wish to use?
No, just surprised. Still, some are still not happy with the way Arsenal play, I suppose, right? We're so deep in the season and so many competitions. They're doing well in the Champions League, obviously in the Premier League, still in a cup final. So obviously you're going to be stretched a little bit. Not every game is going to be where Arsenal are flying, but forget how Arsenal play for the rest of the season in terms of a style, right? I mean, now is the grind. Now is to make sure that the process that Mikel Arteta started in 2019 has been a long road. They see it through. And even today, there were moments that Arsenal didn't play well. The low block initially, obviously, is difficult to penetrate for anybody, right? I mean, Man City have problems and Liverpool have had problems with that, with all of that. But in the end, as you said, routine, they found a way. The entire squad contributed. If you just look at Gyökeres coming in, scoring 2 goals, first time back-to-back for Arsenal. Even that last goal, Martinelli on the counter. So all is good. And from now on, I for one will not be looking for style points.
Neither will Mikel Arteta. There's no diagrams on a scorecard. You don't at the end of the season look back and the first thing you'll notice was, oh, how did we play in that 3-0 win over Sunderland? Who cares? If they win the league, this is about 3 points. It's about progression in cup competitions, and it's about playing well if you can. And if you can't, as long as you win, who cares? It's another clean sheet. And I know Arsenal scored 3, but a number of times Arsenal just need to score 1. And they still win the game. They got 3 today. One of the key elements right now for Arsenal is patience among the fans. They had to wait 42 minutes in that first half, which wasn't great. But Zubimendi with a lovely finish from Trossard's assist, that just settled things down, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. But for me, in terms of patience and discipline, Arsenal have been good throughout the season, right?
Yeah, they have.
There's never a sense of panic if it's 0-0 in the second half because they don't change the way they play for the most part. Now, there's plenty to pick on, right? I mean, as I've said, this is not a flying Arsenal. We've seen that last season and the beginning of this season. A number of reasons for that, right? I mean, keeping with, for one, for me, is a bit of an issue. Sometimes they have to figure these things out throughout the match. Today, for example, and not just today, I, for one, am very frustrated with the way Calafiori plays, the way he gets the license to roam for the most part. But he's not a disciplined player. Carte blanche to roam just about anywhere. And he's not the sort of player that should get carte blanche, right? You saw Hincapie, he came in, also came inside into the midfield like Calafiori, but a little bit less, a little bit in a different way. He was the one where you kind of help Trossard on that left-hand side, where at least the opponent feel that there's a threat or overlap or, a couple players trying to combine. So width has been an issue, and that's obvious because Saka, even when he plays, hasn't been at his best. Obviously, he's been injured. We all remember that combination with Odegaard, who also has been injured, hasn't been at their best. These two, have been wonderful. They understand each other so well. That hasn't been the case this season as well. But others come in and contribute. So there's still some tweaks for those big matches for Arsenal.
You and I cover a lot of La Liga. We've seen a lot of Real Sociedad over the years with Zubimendi as basically the conductor of the orchestra. And look, I'm sure a lot of Arsenal fans would have heard of him when he came in, but weren't sure what impact he would have. He's a threat from outside the box. He's just a wonderful footballer. And he allows Declan Rice that freedom to get forward. He's been a very underrated signing for me.
Yeah, you and I are going to be talking about that, those Sociedad players that Arsenal certainly has plenty of who are contributing for them. But Look, I mean, there's very few players that are so good in the center of the pitch where everything happens, right? They're so good on both sides of the ball, and this is exactly Zubimendi, right? And, because you always have a player that perhaps can keep the rhythm, can see a pass, can score a goal, but maybe defensively sometimes doesn't have the ability to recover, maybe doesn't have the ability to tackle and win their duels. Well, he doesn't have a problem with that. So a lately couple goals, right? A great bounce, because remember, was it in the Manchester United game where he had that mistake? I think that back pass or square pass that Manchester United scored. I think it was the game. And of course, that happens to everybody. But in terms of seeing the game, understanding the game, and his intelligence, well, what can you say? There's so many. They usually come from Spain. I don't want to say always, but very, very often, at least in the Premier League, where they're very, very comfortable with that. But, intelligence on the pitch, you can't learn that. And he's got that.
A front three today for Arsenal of Trossard, Gabriel Jesus, and Madueke. Trossard gets hurt late on, but on the hour mark, Jesus goes off, Madueke goes off, on comes Gyökeres, and on comes Martinelli. 2 goals on his cameo sub-appearance for Gyökeres. I think it's fair to say you're not the president of his fan club. Are you rejoining the fan club today?
No, but I want to give him credit because he's been criticized, rightfully so. But I think he's fought through. Right now, it's 8 goals. I think what is it, like 6 in the last 8 or something like that in all competitions. If you look at that, and today coming in, and somebody's going to say, well, the second one, obviously he's got to score that, but you still have to make that run when you see Martinelli 10, 15, 20 yards ahead of you, right? You there for support. Martinelli could have finished that, but he finished his run as well. The first one I thought was an excellent goal, not just on his part as he was kind of sliding on that shot, but I think just the build-up, right? A great look from Trossard to find Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz obviously knew that Gyökeres was making the run. So look, for as dominant as he was in the Portuguese league, I think we all understand that league is not all that strong. I happen to watch it all the time. Don't ask me why. It's simply because I have to. And it, you can understand why he scored so many goals. The adjustment has been long. Is it coming through right now? Perhaps, but I still don't think that he's the final answer if Arsenal are going to be winning the league or Champions League, not just this season, but are going to be pushing for it and fighting for it in the years to come. I still think he's short of that.
Yeah, I'll play devil's advocate here, and I'll take on board everything that you've just said about him. I think he's just settling in now. I remember he played for Coventry a couple of years ago, obviously went to Portugal, has come back. I think the fact he's come on as a sub and scored 2 goals is decent. He doesn't have that pressure of starting. So I think there's arguments for both sides, but I think this just might be an element of patience. Whether he is or whether he isn't the answer, time will tell. But right now, him not being the focal point, him not being the one that everyone relies on for goals, and him still coming on for a half-hour cameo and getting a couple of goals, I think that's a big positive for Arsenal and for him.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Arsenal because, even though they have immense pressure in all competitions, in particular in the Premier League, they don't have to rely on him, right? Because imagine there are a lot of teams, and, Arsenal could have been one where you do rely on him, but, you get goals from everywhere. And that's a bonus. That's the difference between Arsenal. We often talk about that now or as opposed to last season or the season before, right? This is a deep, deep squad. When you can rotate, when you can rest players, when you can afford an injury or two here or there, right? I mean, if you look at somebody like, Saka, for example, such a critical part. If you thought of Odegaard from last season, every injury, even early on, was, oh my God, what's going to happen? Even Mikel Merino, who I happen to think is very, very important for Arsenal, either starting or coming off the bench. I happen to think that Arsenal play better when Merino is on the pitch, and he can play in every position, right? We've seen him in number 9. We've seen him in the midfield, on the left side, right side, even deep in the midfield. So that's the beauty of it. And maybe that's why Victor Gyökeres is going to benefit from that, because as much as there is pressure from everybody watching him, because you think of how much money they've spent, how many goals he had last season, he can think to himself, well, for as long as we're winning and I'm contributing, I'm moving forward.
Yeah. So Arsenal fans kind of adopt Liverpool for 90 minutes tomorrow. This is where it gets a little bit weird, because if Liverpool beat Man City, there's a 9-point gap as it is right now. However, If City win at Anfield and they win against Fulham, because they play twice now before Arsenal next play, then the gap is only 3 points. Obviously, Arsenal going to Brentford on Thursday. How big for this title race is Liverpool-Man City tomorrow now?
It's big, but there's going to be bigger games, right? Arsenal can't worry about Manchester City for as long as they do their job. The pressure is squarely on Manchester City, and City knows how that feels, right? I mean, we've had some tight races, and you've got to put pressure on the opposition. Arsenal were able to do that today. This is going to be a massive game, not just for Manchester City, but for Liverpool, right? Because if you look at Liverpool, I mean, they're sliding away. I'm looking at where they are and the points difference, and they're just fighting for the Champions League. So, look, I mean, I told you a couple weeks ago that I don't see how anybody takes this away from Arsenal. However, Arsenal and Manchester City are the two best teams, and Manchester City is the only team that can somehow, I don't believe it, but can somehow maybe make this a race. So obviously tomorrow, all eyes on Liverpool if you're an Arsenal fan.
Yeah, it's looking unlikely, though, for Manchester City. Arsenal just keep on rolling along. Win against Sunderland today. Now, at Molineux in the Midlands, there was talk pre-match. Cole Palmer, would he play? Would he not? But the pre-match press conference from Liam Rossinier said, yep, he's good to go. We'll see how we get on, because obviously there's a full midweek card as well. But Cole Palmer started, and I think it's the 4th time that he scored a first-half hat-trick in the Premier League against Wolves. A couple from the penalty spot, one from a nice cutback from Cucurella, and Chelsea just blew away Wolves. And this is the Cole Palmer of last season that we remember, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, he's a legit superstar. You do have to build the team around him just a little bit to allow him to play or to do what he likes to do, right? I mean, I'm not saying that Cole Palmer is not capable of playing on both sides of the ball, because from time to time when he wants to, he does it. But I think you play to his strengths, right? And when he's at his best, I mean, he's one of those players that he's so unpredictable. I mean, for me as a defender, one of the worst players, right? Because his body language, his body feints, and all of that, the ease in which he operates is incredible. So today, that was done and dusted. I mean, first time hat trick, obviously a key player, especially with Reece James once again, I think rested. I don't know what that injury is. He was obviously he didn't play against Arsenal in the League Cup today. Maybe some thought he would have played, but it's one of those games that I think Rossinier made the right decision. Even if he was close, they could have afforded to have him rest another day or two. Look, Cole Palmer, sensational. He's a fluid player. He needs repetition. If he plays all the time and gains his confidence, he changes the way Chelsea plays, no doubt.
4th Premier League hat-trick for Chelsea, 3rd in the first half. He also owns the record for the quickest 2 hat-tricks in the first half for Chelsea. So he finishes 3rd in the Cole Palmer first half hat-trick stakes. For Wolves, you're not going to be judged at games against Chelsea, but they're going to have to hurry up and pick up points. 1 win, 8 points. What are they now? Goodness me, 18 points from safety. Is it about time, or should they have already have done that they have not just one eye on next season, but both eyes on next season, because they ain't salvageable, are they?
No, it's a mission impossible, right? I mean, I think most of us knew that. I kind of, you always hope that there's going to be some sort of a run, somebody's going to drop off, right? But I think watching that home game against Bournemouth last weekend, that to me was the final nail, right? I mean, you kind of had a sense before that. You look at the table, you look at the points, and you say to yourself, well, this would have been a superb run, and it would have had to be combined by everybody else all of a sudden dropping points. So yeah, you could easily say, for a month that Wolves were not going to save themselves, but that Bournemouth game was it, and today was just way too easy.
Top 5 is going to get Champions League spots again, not just the top 4. England will get an extra place, so at least 5. But right now, it means that one of these teams is going to miss out. And look, while Everton are on a really good run, they won 2-1 at Fulham Today they sit 7th in the table. We reckon it's 5 from 6 to get into the Champions League. Villa today took the lead at Bournemouth, but were pegged back in a 1-1 draw. They can't buy a win right now. Out of those 6, which one is the most likely to miss out on Champions League football next season, Janusz?
I legitimately worry about Liverpool. As I've said it before, a soft spot for me, as everybody by now probably knows, but let's be real here. I mean, tomorrow, you've mentioned how massive that is for Arsenal, and that's why I kind of hinted, because I thought you'd ask me about that. I hinted that this is just as big, if not bigger, for Liverpool. I mean, I'm looking right now, what is it, 4 points to Chelsea. I mean, if they were, to drop points, any points tomorrow, the pressure is going to be super real. I obviously didn't look at the fixtures that are coming up for everybody. There's still time for that, but I just think that at the moment, I think if you look at the top 5, you have to say that it stays that way. Not to say, of course, that Liverpool, I mean, it's not that far away that Liverpool can't go on a run. They do have the quality. They've been looking maybe a little bit better than they had in, say October, November, December, I suppose. But the points lost there, you look at now, and all those points lost, they may pay the price for that. So tomorrow, I think it's a must-win for Liverpool. I really do.
Yeah, Villa's also an interesting one because they had that good win at Newcastle, then that horrible defeat at home against the 10 men of Brentford. They do have a couple of games they don't have to play because of the knockout playoff in the Europa League, having finished second in the main section. So they'll get a little bit of time off. Next up for them is Brighton at home in midweek. Then it's Newcastle at home in the FA Cup. Consistency seems to be the one thing they're lacking right now. How do you get that consistency when you don't have it in football, Janusz?
Yeah, I mean, but I think given everything that Villa has, I mean, they've been as consistent as anyone, right? I mean, you look at where they are in the table, it seems that we're always complaining about them. Are they capable of winning the league, right? A couple of losses at home didn't help them because, I mean, Villa Park is sensational. And what was it, Everton? And the other day they've lost again. It's very, very unusual. I think they get that, and look at the position they're in terms of points. So I think they'll see it through. I think the transfer of Tammy Abraham already paid dividends, I think, in his first game when he scored. So I think between Ollie Watkins and him in terms of rotation, maybe they'll play together at some stage. I think they're sitting fine, given the resources that they have and really a thin squad. I wonder if I should be the one now complaining about what Villa's doing or not, because I think that the season's been sensational for them once again. Unai Emery, a superb coach, and once they get past the PSR and all the issues they have, and Unai Emery can truly start building a deep, deep squad, I don't know if it reminds me a little bit of Arsenal. I've mentioned Mikel Arteta in 2019, the 2 8th place finishes, and that process, right, that's taken him to where they are right now. I suspect that Unai Emery is capable of doing that. But if you look at the last couple of seasons, I mean, if I were a Villa fan, I'd be pretty happy.
If I was a West Ham fan, I'd have hope as well. A 2-0 win at Burnley, within 6 of Spurs now. We were speaking about that earlier with Tottenham Hotspur's 2-0 defeat at Manchester United. There seems to be a bit of a cut-off now from 14th down. Spurs and Palace and Leeds on 29, Forest on 26, then West Ham on 23. They've got a bit of momentum. I remember 2 or 3 years ago, one of the players they signed, Tati Castellanos, got 4 goals against Real Madrid, scored today as well. He could be a shrewd pickup. West Ham on the up and up. Can they keep it going?
Maybe. Good. I remember Tati Castellanos. So when I was commentating New York City FC,
right,
when he first left, and of course you mentioned Girona and Lazio, and then coming in, I mean, as a capable player, right? I'm not saying that he's going to light the Premier League on fire, but I think starting or coming off the bench, very, very dynamic, very strong, great strike, good in the air. So he's a player that maybe, I think right away as he came in, he looks the part. I think West Ham need that sort of a player because he's a fighter, he's a scrapper. I mean, everywhere I've seen him, he does his work, right? Not just looking for goals, but helps you out defensively. So look, this is good times for West Ham. They've been waiting for a period like that, and as we've said, there's going to be a massive scrap there. And we've mentioned Spurs, the way they are, they're in a relegation scrap, if they like it or not.
Yeah, so are Forest after a disappointing loss by 3-1 at Leeds United. Newcastle about to kick off against Brentford. The big one tomorrow. Full coverage afterwards, right here and on ESPN FC. On ESPN Plus is Liverpool against Manchester City. But Arsenal, what a week for them. 4 goals at Leeds. A League Cup final spot secured against Manchester City. Another 3 goals and a clean sheet against Sunderland. And a 9-point lead at the top of the English Premier League. The message from the Gunners is simple. To everybody else, catch us if you can. Bye for now.